We're here to say goodbye to our brothers and sisters, to our fathers and mothers, to our friends.
Here's why Tormund Giantsbane's role in Snow could change everything. The North remembers, and so do the fans. When HBO announced Jon Snow's spin-off, simply titled Snow, the fandom erupted with excitement, curiosity, and one burning question: who's coming back?
Never be repaid.
Among all the names whispered in icy
It is our
anticipation,
duty.
one stood
and
out
our...
louder than the rest: Tormund Giantsbane. The red-bearded wildling warrior, the breaker of walls, and Jon Snow's unlikely brother.
To keep them
in Arms
alive
Beyond the
in
Wall.
memory.
Now, on the surface, Tormund's return might just seem like fan service, a friendly face to ease us back into the frozen unknown. But
everyone
closer,
in this
because
world
Tormund Giantsbane's
owes
role
them a
in
debt that
Snow
can never
could completely reshape not only Jon's story, but the future of the entire Game of Thrones universe. Let's dive deep into why Tormund might be the key that changes everything, from the politics of the North to the return of old magic, and even the fate of humanity itself. First, let's set the stage. When we last saw Tormund, it was in the final episode of Game of Thrones. The Great Gate of Castle Black opened, and Tormund led a group of free folk into the frozen wilds, with Jon Snow by his side. There were no words, no grand speeches, just silence and the crunch of snow beneath their boots. It was poetic, tragic, and hopeful all at once. Jon had been exiled, the North was free, and the Wall, once a symbol of division, became a bridge again. But that wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger, something ancient. Because the further north you go, the stranger things get. Tormund Giantsbane has always represented the wild side of Westeros, the untamed, the ungoverned, the free. But in Snow, he might become something much more: a leader, a visionary, and maybe even the moral compass Jon desperately needs. Think about it. Jon Snow has always carried the weight of duty. The king in the north, the bastard of Winterfell, the Targaryen heir, every title, every destiny has chained him to something. But Tormund, he's never been bound by crowns, lords, or rules. He answers only to the call of survival and freedom. And now, with Jon beyond the wall, Tormund might be the only one who can teach him how to truly live. But this isn't just about friendship. It's about transformation. In Snow, Jon Snow's journey will likely explore his identity, not as a king, not as a hero, but as a man trying to find meaning in a world that no longer needs him. The wars are over, the thrones are gone, the dead are defeated, so what now? This is where Tormund becomes essential. Because to understand Jon's future, he must first understand Tormund's past. Tormund wasn't just a comic relief character or a warrior with wild stories about sleeping with bears. Beneath the laughter, he's a survivor of countless horrors: the long night, starvation, betrayal, and loss. He's watched gods fall and men turn to monsters. And through it all, he's held on to one thing: hope. That's what makes him different. While men of the South cling to thrones, Tormund clings to life. He adapts. He endures. So imagine Jon Snow, broken by war and guilt, finding himself once again under the same stars as Tormund. The dynamic between them could become the emotional core of Snow, Jon seeking redemption, and Tormund showing him that redemption isn't earned through duty or punishment, but through purpose. But there's a deeper layer here, one that could completely alter the mythology of the Game of Thrones universe. The Wall was built to protect Westeros from the dangers of the far north, White Walkers, Whites, and things even older. But now that the White Walkers are gone, what's left beyond it? What mysteries still sleep beneath the ice? Remember what Tormund said back in Season 7, "The real North is no place for men." That line wasn't just a warning, it was a promise. The far north holds ancient secrets. And Tormund, as one of the last true free folk leaders, knows those lands better than anyone alive. What if Snow reveals that the White Walkers were just one of many supernatural forces slumbering in the far north? The children of the forest created the Walkers, but what if they weren't the first? What if there are older powers waiting in the cold, powers even the Night King feared? Tormund could be the one to guide Jon, and the audience, into that hidden world. Think of it this way. In Game of Thrones, Tormund was comic relief with a warrior's heart. In Snow, he could become a mythic figure, the link between man and magic. He's seen the wall fall. He's fought the dead. He's walked through lands no map has ever charted. Tormund could serve as the bridge between Jon and the unknown, the mentor who teaches him not only how to survive beyond the wall, but how to understand the land itself. Because if Jon Snow's spin-off is going to succeed, it can't just be a story about survival, it has to be a story about discovery. About the forgotten histories buried in snow and silence. And no one fits that narrative better than Tormund Giantsbane. But let's talk politics, because Snow won't just be about frozen monsters and friendship. It'll be about what comes after the fall of a world built on power. With King Bran ruling the Six Kingdoms and Sansa ruling the North, there's now a fragile peace. But peace never lasts long in Westeros. Beyond the wall, the free folk are rebuilding their lives, hunting, gathering, forming small clans again. And who leads them? Tormund. He's not a king. He's not even a chieftain in the traditional sense. But the free folk follow him because he's earned their respect. He's fought beside them, bled beside them, and most importantly, he treats them as equals. This makes Tormund one of the most unique leaders in the entire Game of Thrones world. He doesn't rule by fear or bloodline, he rules by trust. And that philosophy could inspire Jon Snow in ways the Iron Throne never could. Because remember, Jon never wanted to lead, but he always ended up doing it. Maybe this time, he leads differently. Maybe this time, he learns from Tormund that leadership isn't about command, it's about community. And that's where things could get very interesting. What if, in Snow, we see the rise of a new northern society, one built on the fusion of wildling freedom and stark honor? A society that doesn't bow to kings, but lives in balance with nature and magic. Jon Snow and Tormund could become the architects of this new order, a world beyond politics, beyond bloodshed. But of course, this is Westeros. And nothing stays peaceful for long. Let's entertain a darker theory. What if Tormund's leadership puts him in direct conflict with Jon? Imagine this. As the free folk expand further north, they awaken something ancient. Something that starts taking lives. Fear spreads among the clans. Some want to flee south. Others want to fight. Tormund, ever the warrior, might refuse to abandon the land they've claimed. But Jon, haunted by what happened during the long night, insists that survival must come first. This clash of ideology, freedom versus caution, courage versus fear, could drive a wedge between them. It would be heartbreaking, but powerful. Because their friendship was forged in battle, and now, it could be tested in peace. And perhaps, in the end, one of them might have to make a sacrifice to protect the other. But there's another possibility, one that fans are already whispering about online. What if Tormund becomes the next great legend beyond the wall? In Game of Thrones, he told wild stories about killing giants, drinking their milk, and sleeping with bears. Most of it was played for laughs, but what if Snow shows us that there's truth behind those tales? What if Tormund really did slay a giant? What if he's part of a bloodline connected to the old magic of the North, the same forces that gave rise to giants, greenseers, and the White Walkers themselves? That could explain his unnatural strength, his survival through impossible conditions, and even his instinctive understanding of the land. If Snow explores this, Tormund might not just be comic relief, he could become the key to unlocking the mysteries of the ancient world. And then there's Jon Snow's destiny. We know Jon was always meant to straddle two worlds, the living and the dead, the south and the north, fire and ice. He's half Stark, half Targaryen.